Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untappd podcast.
Your weekly look into what's happening in the Untappd community and the world of beer. So this episode is brought to you by Untappd and the Untappd store. Use the coupon code PODCAST to get 20% off your next purchase. The coupon code PODCAST, store.untappd.com. And remember to like and subscribe to this podcast wherever you usually like and subscribe to podcasts so we can tell you where to find the antidote.
Come with me if you want to live.
Now, much like the famed James Cameron movies that remind us not to give too much power to our Google Alexas, we had a hard time finding Bock beers for this episode. And I'm also quite aware that Bock beers are not the main plot line of Terminator 2. But are you aware that Arbor Brewing up in Ypsilanti in Michigan made a Terminator Doppelbockd beer that would have just been perfect for this badge? So aside from not being able to get that beer, we've got a great Bock lined up for this show, and I know Harrison's excited about it. We're going to cover how to earn the Be Bock badge on Untappd. You can bet your favorite pint glass that Harrison's going to try and sell you on Bock beers being some of the best suds you can find. If you can find them this time of year, it is the year of the lager, and Bock is just like an angry lager. So don't hasta la vista yet. Get to the choppa and pour a beer while Harrison gives us the details on Untappd's Be Bock.
Oh, so many memories. Thank you for that, John. We'll get to the kindergarten cop quotes later, but first, let's talk about this badge. All right, so today we are going to be chipping away at the Be Bock badge. And how do you earn it? You check into any beer with the style of Bock. And so obviously that's kind of like an umbrella of other styles, including beers like a Heller Bock, a Helles Bock, a Maibock, Pale Bock, an Ice Bock, and today's beer, a Doppelbockd, just to name a few. The tagline, once you've had just one, there's no doubt you'll be saying, I'll be Bock for another. Loving this. Loving all the puns.
Yes, more Terminators, please.
That's right. And as a note, National Beer Bock Day, it is celebrated on the 20th of March every year here in the States. This style, of course, originated from Germany, and we'll talk a little bit more about Bocks today, but kind of long story short, it's like a stronger lager, and there are tons of variants, but usually stronger than a Helles, a Munich, a premium, something you may see every day. And ours today is definitely is stronger.
Speaking of stronger, the beer we're about to drink has an amazing name, but before we get there, I want to ask one quick clarifying question, if we can ever get really black and white on something, Harrison. As the year of the lager, is it true or false all Bocks are lagers?
We live in a day and age where this is you'd think it'd be an easy answer. Yes, they are, but then I'm sure someone will brew some like double IPA, they call it Bock, they lager, and then it's a Bock now. Yes, it should. Yes, all Bock beers are lagers until I'm proven wrong.
That's the best way to win an argument with anyone. This is true until it isn't true anymore. So thanks for clarifying that, though. It's one of the things that I think when you're the year of the lager and then you see a Bock and then you're like, wait a minute, does this fall into the lager family or ale family? So generally safe to drink a Bock beer and still count it to the greatest year of ever. And so anyways, we're talking about a particular beer today for this challenge that was issued to Harrison and I to level up the Bock badge. And this one Harrison found, it's perfectly named. If you're watching on YouTube, the can reveals beautiful. This is called Ram Lord from Newgrass Brewing out in Shelby, North Carolina. It looks like a metal cover. It looks like a Skinny Puppy t-shirt. The can art is beautiful on this.
It really is. It's killer.
As Harrison pointed out, it's a Doppelbockd. It's 8%, so it'll still get you there. Overall, the beer on Untappd rates 4.03. And here's a quick interjection, Harrison. We talk about beer ratings sometimes, 4.03. Looking back at maybe the last week or so, has there been a beer that really jumped out to you that was like your best beer of the week?
Oh, yeah. Best beer of the week, for sure, John. So I enjoyed a collaboration actually this past week with Resident Culture out of North Carolina and Cellar Maker out of San Francisco. They actually had two right now on the market. So one of them is a double IPA called Party Days that I didn't have. I had a beer called Secondhand Smoke, which is a 3.5% Second Runnings beer made out of basically what was left over from the Party Days beer. So they made one beer, but got two beers out of it, which is really cool. And that's something you can do as a brewery. So Second Runnings is just you brew a big beer like a double IPA. There's still going to be some potential or sugar in that mash that you can use to make another beer, remash in. In this case, I think they added some smoked malt to those Second Runnings and made a really clear, crisp, slightly smoky, like smashable 3.5% lager. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. You don't see that a lot, but yeah, Second Running beers are really cool for a lot of nerdy reasons. And I grabbed a delicious one from two really great breweries. So that was my easy shoe-in for best beer of the week. What about you, John? What did you discover out there?
For me, if I'm going to name the best beer of the week, it's the one that I remember, and it's called Special Reserve Malo from Modest Brewing. I was actually part of Beer Advocates Extreme Beer Fest, and I've just been holding on to it. A lager as well, although imperial, and basically a lager as if Willy Wonka made one. The part that sold me on this is double the marshmallow. Nothing else to say after that. You've already sold me. Where do I pay? How do I drink? It was weird. That's my description would be a shout out to my Untappd Korean beer friend. There's a lot going on with that one, but all told, never had a beer like that before, and that's why I'll remember it probably for the whole next week too. But anyways, thanks for taking a break to review that with me, Harrison.
Yeah.
We should do this more often.
We should.
But again, this feature is Ramlord. So I know you've got first sips. Just a quick, that's a beautiful cup too. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
So while Harrison's working on the first sip, just a little, can we call it an expose on Newgrass Brewing? Some cool facts, if you will, on Newgrass. If you're ever in and around Shelby, North Carolina, they brew, their regular brew house is a 7-barrel system. That probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but generally it's kind of a small brewery at 7 barrels. And they actually have in-house, they have a 1-barrel system that they brew some of their weird stuff on. So you can very likely go into Newgrass, get a beer that might only have that only a couple of kegs ever produced, which is really cool. The facility, the brew house that they're in is over 100 years old, which is, I think, really cool in a small town like Shelby, North Carolina. They're reinvigorating the town. They're using some old kind of architecture and turning it into something new.
Nice.
And then my favorite story about Newgrass, this is in a rural place, but it's not in the middle of nowhere. And so early on, they would get a lot of people that would come in with a couple of buddies. Somebody orders a Bud Light or a Coors or something. And Newgrass kind of like, sorry, we're a kick-ass brewery. We don't have Bud Light. You don't really want to say that. So they took that feedback as an opportunity, created a beer called Shelby Y'all Stars, which is a great name. And it's kind of become like a love letter to Shelby, North Carolina, like a crisp, crushable lager you can mow the lawn with. You can come in and drink with your friends in the middle of the day. So props to you, Newgrass, for taking something that could have been a problem and turning it into an awesome 4-pack.
Love that. Never enough lagers, so cheers to that, Newgrass. And they've always, I've known them as just like one of the breweries that always has amazing artwork on their cans. A lot of heavy metal inspired things, and it always looks intense. But let's talk about this beer that we're not just the can that we're drinking. So first sips for me, it's like dark, malty, like candied fruit, but not like fruity fruit, not IPA fruit, like a fig. That's what's happening here, but not like figgy. It's a very crisp, or very like clean rather. It definitely does have that like nice, bigger malt character to it where you taste it. It's not cloying, but it's like sitting there and it's lingering. And there's a slight bitterness right at the end, which is very slight, very, very. But this is like, I almost drank the whole thing in 2 sips. So that's always good. When my first sip is also my second to last sip, you know I've got a good beer in my hands.
It's working well. I couldn't agree more, man. First sip was delicious. Second sip, after hearing your kind of flavor notes, like I picked up on, it reminds me of like if Gordon Ramsay made a Werther's Original can.
Yes.
That's how I would describe this beer.
Fanciest.
But it's delicious, man. It's got all the sweetness more sweetness, maybe more identifiable sweetness than I would get from like a pastry stout. But then the body's not there either. So I feel like this, I don't know, this is the Bock lager body allows me to taste this and drink the whole thing very quickly. Man, there's some articulation
there
for you.
Go. Yeah, but I know what you mean. Right. It's like, it's not going to, the big pastry stout, you know you're drinking it and you kind of, hopefully you pace yourself. Or this one you could, like I have done, like just kind of sip it right down because it is so smooth, but the body is not, it's not slowing down the consumption at all. So I love this style of beer, you know, I think probably for both of us, John, like the most identifiable Doppelbockd is Troganator from Trogs. That's because that kind of become the one I compare a lot of other ones to, or like Celebrator from Anger, and like those are 2 that are big and well known. But yeah, this is like, it's more the Trogs. I think it is a little bit sweeter and not as a dry finish as I remember Celebrator being, which that's just difference. That's all. This is awesome. Now I'm thinking about Ramlord and what he would just 2 liters of it charging across a battlefield or something at a party with that
There's
guy.
definitely like an homage to Rams and Box and Bock beer label art. I feel like there's a beautiful, I mean, we haven't really drawn attention to it, but if you're listening to this when it comes out, it's St. Patrick's Day, or maybe it's retaken by the Ramlord charging into a field, double fisting some beer mugs and creating a new celebration. I mean, where you get to drink these amazing Bock beers with cornbread or some sort of, I'm hungry.
Right.
This would pair with everything.
This will grow great with corned beef or a cheesesteak or, you know, whatever. I agree. I think there's an opportunity here to kind of let Ramlord grab some more spotlight. And we are right now, if you're listening to this the day it releases on YouTube, or even on, which is Tuesdays, or on Wednesday, we're like 3 or 4 days away from National Bock Beer Day. I could see like a Ramlord Day of Days, a Ramlord Week happening in the future where we buddy up with Newgrass and we're bringing other breweries into town and everyone's bringing their favorite bocks and we're just in a field watching goat races, drinking bocks. Maybe there's like a sword fight challenge that you can enter to win and only one man. Nah, we'll figure that out with legal. But
there's
like
some marketing difficulties there.
Right,
but
I've been to medieval times. I know this is possible. I've been to a couple Renaissance fairs. I know there is a network out there that could make this happen. But yeah, I mean, I see it as an opportunity. The only kind of downside to National Bock Beer Day being in March is that like all the My Bocks that I love, they're not even out yet. So maybe we can talk to them. But I see an opportunity here for Ramlord to be a household name and to again, why just be the year of the lager? Let's let Lager and Ramlord be our new something. This is working. This is Ramlord's in me. He's persuading me.
What happens when you 12 ounces of 8% Bock in 6 minutes. Well, we've created a holiday, perhaps a lethal contest of sport. So that's fine. We're right on par with where we usually are in an episode.
Exactly. And if football is any indication, you want to it's just gotten more and more protective over the years. You want to be early, the early days of Ramlord Day when it's just men in a field with forks and knives before the helmets
swords.
and exactly, the padding. That'll come later. It's again legal. But in the beginning,
last year's champion isn't here this year.
Right. So that's an inevitability. But until then, bring your own sword, and we'll see you on the field. That'll be amazing. Like a Renaissance Day kind of fair with a beer festival. I'm sure that's happening somewhere or has happened. But why not more? That's what I say. I'm ready for as many festivals as I can get my
I think I just miss people and drinking.
Right, exactly.
Outside and all those good
and
things
sword
I took
fighting,
for granted.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Things from back in the day, misremembering. Okay, cool. But this is great. They killed it. I'm excited to be drinking it.
So what about this badge? So it's a relatively simple. It's not a hard badge to earn. Maybe hard to find Bocks all the time. Depends on, I'm sure if you live in Germany, it might be a little bit easier, but I know we had a hard time of it. Harrison, you got any details about this badge, or how'd you do on the challenge? Yeah.
So as a quick refresher, so this was kind of challenged to us by Travis. I mean, he saw that John and I were both the same level on the Be Bock beer, and about a month or so ago, we announced on the show, all right, we're gonna give each other 4 weeks and see how many Bocks we can check in, and if responsibly, and where are we going to come out of the other end of it. So to John's point, it was a little difficult to find a lot of Bocks. I asked every bottle shop I went into, looked in the grocery store. I was lucky to find one, so I got one in. Today will be number 2. But like I said, my Bocks. Next year will be different. Ramlord, it'll be everywhere. We'll have Bocks raining from the skies. But this year, we did okay. How did you fare, John, in our first inaugural badge challenge from season 4?
Huge shout out to Travis for doing the work, looking at Harrison's badge level and my badge level, and saying the Bock would be a great one to compete with. Maybe I was a little bit rushed in saying, let's try and end the competition before National Bock Beer Day, because you're looking at it, man.
This is it.
This is the first Bock beer that I've been able to procure since the gauntlet was thrown down. And I only have it because Harrison was kind enough to bring me one before we recorded this episode. So I think if this were a Ramlord sword fight, I would already be... What is it, worm food?
You'd be one leg down, one arm down, and I'd have the higher ground and be prepared to take the field, as they say. But all right, fine. And again, it's the inaugural one, all that stuff. And I was able to find Dead Guy from Rogue, which in my check-in, it's a classic. It's one, again, it's one of those beers that maybe people forget about. However, if you're a Bock fan, you don't. That is easily, when you look at Untappd and the number of check-ins that are attributed to unlocking this beer, level 1 rather, of this badge, Dead Guy from Rogue is number 1, about 12,000 of those check-ins. So again, not surprising. And I think I said in that check-in, what an awesome boss move to have a My Bock be your flagship beer, and you brew it all year as Rogue does. And they've always done things their own way. So I grabbed a 6-pack of that and enjoyed it to make at least some kind of mark on this challenge. And now Ramlord is gonna keep moving along. But this was so cool. Some of the other beers that led to all these unlocks. You have Shiner Bock, which is pretty readily available in the top 10. Celebrator I mentioned, doing really well in there too. And then Troganator made it into the top 6 or 7 or so of the most checked-in beers that of those check-ins unlock this badge. Anyway, 458,000 so far. So keep it going. Next year we'll double that at Ramlord Fest Day week. alone. That's a lofty goal, but we can do it.
Yeah, it's not hard to put a beer festival together. The hardest part is finding a field and summoning the Ram Lord.
Exactly. That's the hardest part. I think when the fifth man falls on the battlefield, Ram Lord just shows up. That's his sacrifice. Much like leveling up this badge takes 5 beers, summoning Ram Lord takes 5 men to fall under the sword of the brave. Doesn't matter. Speaking of competitions and contests, John, holy guacamole, hold on to your overalls. It's coming back. We're about to get wild.
I'm excited.
We're about to get crazy.
Excited.
We're about to get mad because it's Brewery Madness. Brewery Madness returns. So he can.
Was that a crowd behind you?
That was air leaving a tire on the side of the road. It was right. It was just me having a bad day. Maybe it was a crowd. I don't remember what they sound like. But Brewery Madness, guys. So enough hemming and hawing. Brewery Madness is back. So this, if you don't know, this is something that we used to do. I mean, for a couple of years in a row on Untappd, where we pit. This year, 64 of the most checked-in breweries of 2021 so far against each other in a head-to-head battle of beers. Bracketology, Untappd style. So if you're fans of March Madness and the NCAA tournament for basketball, you immediately get this kind of what we're doing here. If you're not, March in the States is commonly referred to. There's a tournament of all the college basketball teams called March Madness. They all play together. The winner is the winner. They win the whole.
Everybody becomes
thing.
A college basketball
right? Exactly. Experts overnight.
Yep. Oh yeah, Gonzaga. Yeah,
I know all about those guys.
3-point line.
Right. Glad they added it recently. Right. So
this bracket's so much better. You get to drink beer and score points at will.
Exactly. And it's going to be so much fun. I really do. I look forward to it every year we do it. It's just fun. It's another way to, kind of use this amazing Untappd community we're all a part of and do things that only Untappd can do. Like, now you check in a beer and it helps that brewery maybe make it to the next round. So that's how this is going to work. So you're going to be using Untappd to check in as many beers from your favorite participating breweries as possible during any given round. The brewery in each matchup with the most check-ins will move forward. And at the end of the tournament, the winning brewery will receive a special sponsored badge package, courtesy of Untappd. More badges, they're coming. And then as a disclaimer or a note, remember that check-ins for each round only count when the round is active. And so we announced this the other day. So you can follow the links on Untappd social media to look at this bracket and to learn more about the matchups. There are a lot in round one that have me excited, but I've already kind of forecasted down a couple rounds to see where we might be or what could happen. But John, any kind of early picks, early thoughts as you take a look at this bracket? What do you got?
I run my Untappd bracket just like I run my college basketball bracket.
Yes.
In fact, probably no, not. Anyways, I generally pick from the heart.
Smart.
So one of the breweries that I would love to see win, this is my Cinderella pick, would be Omnipollo out of Sweden. They've got a tap room in Tokyo. If you're listening in Japan, check into Omnipollo. The world needs these check-ins so that Omnipollo can continue on to the championship. It might be tough for them to win because they're up against some breweries in here with some decent distribution. Yeah. So heartstrings, Omnipollo. But if I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on Dogfish Head. They're my pick to win it all. Can I say that?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be wrong. You got a 1 in 64 chance of getting it right. Exactly. I think Dogfish Head might have a good leg up on some of the competition because I like their beer. Yeah. So I'm going to check in a few Dogfishes. Anyways, what about you, Harrison?
Yeah,
you got a secret pick to win?
And I'm going to say on your picks, those are good picks. I mean, so Omnipollo kind of has a tough draw. They got to get through Ballast Point first. If they do that, they got to beat probably Trillium or New Belgium at that point. Those are
Trillium?
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, it can be done. It's all up to us. All up to all us Untappd users out there. And Dogfish Head has the number 7 seed. And, that's a good pick. I mean, they're going to have to probably eventually meet Brewdog, maybe other half in the round of, what would that be, 16, or if my guesses are correct, although you never know till you get there. But those are good. I mean, I think both are valid and fun things to watch. Anything can happen. It's madness, Brewery Madness. For me, though, I went a similar route, so I kind of, going with my, I don't know if it's a heartstrings pick, more of like an underdog pick, the Cinderella story, as they call it, could be this year, due to perhaps some serendipity, toppling Goliath. So right out of the gate,
good pick.
Right? But at home, you might be going, "You're crazy, Harrison." Toppling Goliath has Guinness in the first round. As we all know, Guinness is the most checked-in beer on Untappd, and indeed, if you listen to this, the day it came out, St. Patrick's Day is happening, which is obviously a huge day for Guinness. My kind of working theory, though, and I'm sure I'm going to get buried on this, is that perhaps people are going to be punching that Guinness ticket tonight, and then when the actual round opens tomorrow, it'll just leave it wide open for Toppling Goliath to sweep in there. They've also expanded distribution. We're seeing King Sue pop up all over the place. So maybe, usually in years past, this Brewery Madness St. Patrick's Day is in the middle of it, and Guinness just gets a huge benefit from that. This year, with it starting right afterwards, I mean, again, there's something here, I think, although who knows.
This is the level of strategy that I expect from Colby when he's on the show and we're actually talking about sports.
I know.
That's great.
I know, and hopefully we'll do a special show with him just about this, and really you can hear me make up all sorts of other things. So that's kind of what my Cinderella pick, Toppling Goliath. If they can get out of round 1, then it's anyone's game, and they could go pretty far. Definitely surprise a lot of people. But if I'm a betting man and a businessman, I'm actually going to jump on Sierra Nevada. They are, I believe, they're very high. They're like 2 or 3, I think.
They're like number 2 or 3,
yeah. They're all the way up there. They're number 3 right now, going off against Spotzel, which brews Shiner Bock, oddly enough, in round 1. And I kind of picked it for perhaps one of the similar reasons you picked Dogfish Head, and that Sierra Nevada has they have a lot of new beers that just came out. Just ran a badge in Untappd for their big little thing, their new double IPA.
Yep.
Big hate, yeah. So that's pretty cool. And they have Cecil's coming out just like Dogfish Head. I mean, Sequential. It's a year round now, but that's a beer you drink this time of year a lot. I feel it gets a little bit warmer out. They always have a good spring seasonal, Dogfish Head does. So perhaps that push of a new beer in the market helps these guys go further than most. But, we'll see. Again, it's always full of surprises. It's madness after all. But I'm excited. I really can't wait. I'm glad it's back. And if you guys have picks, Cinderella picks, breweries you're rooting for, let us know. Drop it in the comments. Add us on social media, whatever you want to do. Again, don't forget to check in those beers. Be mindful of when the rounds begin and end, so you're making it count. We'll just keep following along with this and check in, and hopefully do some more fun stuff with Colby as it gets closer to the Final Four there, to see who comes out on top. Which really all of us, because we get a badge out of it. So
yeah, seriously.
We already won!
Even if I'm drinking from the losing team, I'm still winning.
We're still having a beer.
Most of the competition is just in the bottom of your glass.
Exactly. All right, John. So what do we have this week for our verified venue highlight? Where are we going next? What's happening? This is amazing.
Yeah, we're going, I guess, sort of close to where I'm from. Probably closer to where our good friend Paul Shim drinks most of his beer.
Yes.
We're going to Ithaca Coffee Company.
Ooh, yeah. They're
a verified venue on Untappd. And if you're like me, you hear Coffee Company and think, what kind of joke is this? Because, coffee. They're both brewed, but
indeed,
I found this venue on Untappd because when Travis said Bock Beer Challenge, I immediately thought Troganator, Doppelbockd, that's the one I want to drink. And I looked for it on Untappd, and I expanded my radius, and eventually I just started looking all over, and I found it on tap at this place called Ithaca Coffee Company. Cool. And so then I started investigating them because why, like Starbucks doesn't have Doppelbockd on tap, to my knowledge, though they should. So primarily, it's a coffee roastery, a coffee place, a coffee shop. They brew coffee, which effectively could be like morning beer if you don't drink breakfast stouts for the morning. They make breakfast sandwiches, they make scones, fair trade coffee beans, your whole morning routine. Like you could stop here and just level up your morning. And then they have a bottle shop, they have a growler station, they have an online store. You can do ordering from them right online. And it just kind of like opens up this whole world where, like, probably not all of you live in Ithaca. Not many people live in Ithaca at all. The whole town is one really steep hill that everyone's dad makes them learn how to drive a standard on.
Right.
So the town can be scary for manual car drivers. But outside of that, there's this beautiful world where you go and you're drinking coffee in the morning and you're eating a scone and you're on their Wi-Fi and you're sending your emails for the day or whatever. And then you start drinking beer, maybe at noon or 5 after lunch.
Right.
And now all of a sudden you're still using their Wi-Fi, you're streaming WrestleMania and you're having a great day. And you've spent the whole day at this coffee place. It's like a grown-up theme park. And I feel like the idea is kind of catching on. Harrison, have you experienced any of these like cool coffee shops that'll also pour you a pint as well?
Yes, they're the best. It's right. You can literally stay there all day and start with coffee and scones and end with beer and scones, or maybe get some protein in there somewhere, for goodness sake. But I kind of call it loosely like the cafe model. I mean, you see this a lot when we're talking with businesses in Europe, where it's, you sit outside somewhere or inside, doesn't matter, and have a espresso or maybe some wine or some tea and a beer. Again, it kind of can offer you whatever you're looking for, and it's here and doing really well across the states now too. We have a couple in town. Bespoke in downtown Wilmington is great, where they have a full bar, and I would go there before heading to the office a lot of days to grab some coffee, and then you could jump over there after work and grab a couple pints too if you wanted. When I lived in Philadelphia, I lived right next to La Colombe, which is a coffee, their headquarters. So they roast coffee that's like available all over the world. But you go there and get some coffee. They also had a distillery in the back and a full bar, so you could drink beer there or have some of their like rum barrel aged coffee. I mean, they had all kinds of crazy stuff.
Holy
that
cow.
was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then another spot in town here, Sideboard Cafe, a little bit different. So they're really known for like pre-COVID hosting like large D&D tournaments. You go there also though and have like dinner and like a pint or some coffee and play board games all night. Or right, as John's holding up there, like it's a lot of opportunity to enjoy yourselves with some beer, some coffee, kind of, whatever you like. And this, I mean, it makes sense historically, like the coffee bar or coffee shop or the tea house was really like just as much the center of town or the community we're in as the local bar or the local brewery. So seeing these concepts like under the same roof as we are now, and again, it seems to be a growing trend. It makes sense. Certainly makes my slam poetry better when I'm at the coffee house and I can have a couple pints of beer and not a couple shots of espresso. And then I forget what I'm saying because I'm vibrating and nobody wins there.
A whole podcast of Harrison slam poetry.
Slam poetry. It's a lot of, what do they call it? Scatting, where it's just a lot of noise and I pretend to be a trumpet and then I fall down and people clap. If you're
performance art,
it's avant-garde slam poetry. There's no words. It's just emotions conveyed through noises. It'll catch on in about not important. All right, so
served with an haute cuisine eggs Benedict, which is just a frozen English muffin.
I throw it in your face, and that's how I end each set.
Oh man! All right, Ramlord's kicking my butt, man. Let's call it a night. What's coming up next?
That's right. Yeah. So we had a heck of a day today. Talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Talked about Ramlord a ton. Thank goodness for that. Brewery Madness is back. Slam Poetry. I plugged that. This has been a heck of an episode. And as a reminder, John and I are on Instagram. We're on Twitter. You can follow us at Harry Beard at Drinking with John. Podcast at Untappd.com. YouTube. You guys know. But this was a lot of fun. So, John, what's happening next week? Where are we going? What's coming down the pipe?
Next week's a big deal, man. Next week is, so occasionally we'll ask people in the Facebook group, what badge should we feature on the show? And next week is the second place winner.
Ooh.
It's something we're going to feature, and I think it's going to work. We live in a time right now where travel is potentially fatal, if not toxic or looked down on. So we're going to kind of take next week and we're going to reveal the secrets behind the beer connoisseur badge, which is actually harder to level up than it is to spell. And we'll see if you can find a beer from a country that you've never drank.
Yeah.
Bring it with us next Wednesday or Tuesday if you follow us on YouTube. And make sure to tune in and learn more. You'll know about it right away if you subscribe to us on YouTube. But that's all I've got, Harrison.
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect for me. Until next week, guys. Cheers!
Cheers!